Life, as we know, is a mixture of joy and grief. Some days are good, while on others, things simply don't get done. And more often than that, we try and define our existence in terms of these moments when we feel extremely good or extremely sad. We think these moments are eternally permanent, and this is exactly when anxiety and fear of losing out creeps in. We start to expect life in a certain way, and when it doesn't follow that expected path, spoiler alert, which oftentimes is not the case, we become dissatisfied with life. We are anxious about tomorrow, we are replaying the past, we are everywhere except right here and right now. And the cruelest part, when something painful happens, we convince ourselves that it'll never end, that it's permanent, that it defines us. But what if everything we are experiencing right now, our worries, our fears, our happiness, is already dissolving? What if actually nothing lasts forever? Nothing is permanent. That's what Buddha discovered, and it changes everything. With this Buddhist wisdom in mind, this video explores the Buddhist concept of momentariness and how it can lead us to a more fulfilled and enriched life. Hi, this is Salil. Do support my work by subscribing to my channel, and I hope you like this video. And now, let's dive into the world of impermanence. To get started, I want you to think about something. Are you the exact same person you were just a minute ago? Now, before you say yes, obviously, let us challenge this deeply held conception. We walk around every single day with this solid assumption about our permanence and the reality of the world around us, right? But what if this assumption is the exact root cause of all our anxieties? So here's our roadmap. We are going to start with the illusion of permanence, move on to the myth of the self, explore the web of interconnectedness, redefine nirvana, and finally arrive at the path of compassion. Let us jump directly to the illusion of permanence, or as I like to think of it, embracing the flux. Before we try and figure out how to act within the universe, we basically have to shatter how we view it. Let us look at the concept of Kshanikvad, a pretty heavy Sanskrit term which is also known as Anityavad. This is the doctrine of momentariness. It essentially asserts that absolutely all reality is persistently subject to the law of change. According to the Buddha, existence isn't just some static thing you inhibit, but an incessant stream of birth, decay, and death. Literally nothing remains exactly as it is for two consecutive moments. The whole universe is in a constant state of flow. The ancient Greek thinker Heraclitus actually hit the nail on the head and perfectly mirrored this ancient Buddhist wisdom when he said, "No one can step in the same water twice." Think looking at a candle flame, it looks like one solid continuous stream, doesn't it? But in reality, it is a completely new flame every second. The Buddhist texts tell us what we experience every day and mistakenly call it identity. This idea that something is exactly the same is really just similarity. Which brings us to the myth of the self. Time to deconstruct the notion of I. So, when absolutely everything in this universe is constantly changing and dissolving from moment to moment, what exactly happens to the concept of self? For centuries, major philosophical schools like the Vedanta in India or the Cartesian dualism in the West argued for a permanent essence. They deeply believed in an eternal, immutable soul which is neatly separated from the physical body. But Buddhism vigorously challenges this with the theory of Nairatmyavad or the no soul theory. This asserts there is absolutely no permanent soul. Instead, what we call the self is just a continuous flow of momentary states of mind. There is no fixed spiritual substance holding our physical existence together. So, if there is no soul, what are we? Buddhism breaks down this concept of self using the five skandhas or five aggregates. The self is nothing but a temporary, ever changing combination of form, feelings, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. Each one of these five components is momentary, is transitory, is fleeting. We are simply the temporary unity of these aggregates. Claiming that it makes a permanent self is more like putting a pile of temporary bricks and calling it an eternal castle. And spoiler alert, these bricks are gonna fall away. Some Buddhist texts compare this mind body complex to a blind man and a cripple walking together as a functional unit. Consciousness needs a physical body to perform its functions, and the body definitely needs the mind to perform the sensory processes. They mutually support each other. Neither one of them is permanent, neither one of them is the boss. They are just temporarily cooperating. Which leads us to the web of interconnectedness. If there is no distinct permanent self, how do we actually relate to the world and the people around us? To answer that, we have to look at another concept, the Pratitya Samutpat, or the theory of dependent origination. Nothing exists absolutely independent of other things. Everything exists conditionally. Everything in the world is dependent on everything else. Even you and I, our birth is conditional. By the way, I have made a detailed video explaining this theory, so feel free to watch it. Most of our human anxieties stem from trying to fiercely protect and preserve an illusory permanent self that actually doesn't exist. Realizing this massive interconnectedness kind of changes how we look at our lives. Now, moving ahead to redefining Nirvana. Nirvana essentially means blowing out, the blowing out of our ego and ignorance by gaining a perfect insight into the transient nature of reality. What it is definitely not is the annihilation of life and existence. It is an awakening to a reality achieved right here, right now, while we are pretty much alive. Many people think nirvana is sitting isolated on a mountain top meditating on the truths of existence, a classical case of passive indifference. The reality, which was perfectly demonstrated by the Buddha himself, is that a truly liberated person becomes incredibly active. They are finally liberated from the worldly attachments and voluntarily and tirelessly work for the well being of others, other fellow beings, in this pretty sorrowful world. This is nirvana. This leads us to the path of compassion. This is theory put in practice. This is where understanding that we are interconnected dictates our daily actions. An awakened person, completely devoid of ego, the Bodhisattva, dedicates his life for the betterment and emancipation of fellow beings. The Bodhisattva ideal brilliantly bridges the gap between the abstract metaphysics, which we have been talking about earlier, and the absolute real world selflessness. If we truly understand there is no permanent self to selflessly protect, the only other logical way to live is for the benefit of others. And this leads us to the application of theory in everyday life. Engaging in tasks for serving others who are in need is true meditation. Helping others selflessly is far more worth than sitting under a tree meditating for hours. And if you wonder how it actually helps you, just listen to this powerful quote by Shantideva, the great Buddhist poet. Fear arises because I believe the self exists. Since the self is illusory, fear is irrational. The theory of momentariness helps us on two levels, on an individual level and on a societal level. Learning that all things, including our bodies, our souls, are impermanent, forces us to focus on important things in life. How often we waste our time on quarrels. How often we are sad when we don't get what we wanted. How often we fear that something bad would happen only to know later that things fall in place. Knowing that all this is not real sets us free. We are more open and resilient to face adversities since we know that these painful moments will also eventually pass away. On a societal level, it makes us more tolerant and empathetic. We no longer see our lives in isolation, rather experience it as an organic whole where everything depends on every other thing. In a world full of turmoil and insecurity, understanding that our everyday anxieties are not actually real and permanent brings in hope. That we all are interconnected, we all share joy and sorrows, raises a sense of collective responsibility. That our future, good or bad, is shared. We are all in this together.